So if you can grab a block or a blanket or a ball that you have close by, that would be great. We'll use that. And then we're going to come down to downward dog. So we're going to start there. So come all the way down to downward dog. Take your feet as wide as you need to make space. Or if you're postpartum, you can bring your feet a little closer together. And just stay here, bend your knees, send your tailbone high. And then think of spreading through your glutes. So find some space in the back of your hips. Find your breath here. Let your head drop. And then just settle here for a couple of breaths, widening through the back of your hips. Good. And then take your attention to your pelvic floor. So let your pelvic floor just soften out lightly while you're here. And then maybe let your heels drop down towards the floor a little bit more. But keep your knees bent so you feel a big stretch in your hamstrings and the backs of your legs. Good. One more breath here. Good. And then drop your knees down to the floor. Walk your hands slightly forward. Drop your hips just a little bit and let your belly drop. So lift into an extended cat pose. So lifting your chest, letting your ribs come forward, pressing your hips back. So creating space in between your hip bones. And then walk your hands back again. Go back to that downward dog. So spread through your hips, bend your knees, send your tailbone back. And then press one heel down to the floor at a time. So alternate like you're walking on your feet. You'll feel more of a stretch in one side of your leg than the other. And then settle back into downward dog one more time. Spread through your glutes. Really send your tailbone high. Good. And then walk your feet all the way forward to meet your hands. Bend your knees as much as you need to keep your fingers on the floor. And then bend your knees, send your left leg back to a lunge. Drop your back knee down to the floor. Come up onto your back knee. Pull your legs towards each other. So pull this right heel back towards your hip. So you start to feel the bottom of your hamstring and the bottom of your right glute engage. Now take your hands on your hips. Notice if one hip is hiked higher than the other. If this right hip right here is really high, right? If your pant line is like this, see if you can take your hand onto your right hip and drop that hip into your hand. Right? Really sink into that right hip and then pull your legs back together. This is like a number one go-to for back pain because it releases the front of this left hip, but also helps get that hip down and the femur into the hip socket, which then relieves some of the back pain and some of the QL tightness back there. So keep pulling on your legs here. Keep squeezing those legs together. It's like an isometric pull. And then take your hands on your belly. Keep moving your legs together, both hands on your core. And take an inhale. So release your pelvic floor on the inhale. And then exhale, squeeze and lift your pelvic floor. Draw the belly and baby back towards your spine. Legs are still pulling together. 2 more breaths here. Inhale, staying connected with your legs. Exhale, belly and baby back. Good. 1 more. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Keep that right hip dropping down. Good. And then we'll switch sides. So right knee back and left leg forward. Ooh, you feel that right hip, right? So left leg forward. You're in a 90-degree angle with the front and the back leg. Squeeze your legs together. So pull your left heel back towards your right hip. You'll feel that hip engagement again. And then check in with that left hip. See if it's hiked up to the side, right? You'll feel like crunchy on the side over here. And then put your hand on that glute and drop it into your hand. So interesting. And then pull your knees back together. So you're squeezing the inner thighs. Take your hands on your belly. And 3 breaths here. Inhale. Exhale from your pelvic floor. Deep core draws back. Good. Keep pulling those legs together. Dropping that left hip down. Exhale. Good. 1 more. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Take your left knee back to meet your right. If you're pregnant, you can take your knees as wide as you need to make space. If you're postpartum, keep your feet together. And then tuck your toes. Take your hands down to the floor. We're going to press back, kind of like a child's pose, but your hips are pressing all the way back. So you're really spreading through your glutes. If you're pregnant, the knees can go wide and you can send your hips back here this way. Right? So try to flare your tailbone up so you're making space in the back of your hip. Good. If you're postpartum and your knees are together, really try to press back, make space in your glutes. So it's almost like a glute stretch. And then nice big breaths into your mid-back. Find back body expansion. 1 more breath here. Good, and then come back up to all fours. We'll take a cat and cow. So we'll inhale, open your chest, look forward. Let your belly drop. Exhale, tuck your toes, round your back, press through your shoulders. Go slowly, lift your lower belly up and spread through your shoulder blades. Inhale, lift your chest forward, drop your belly down, opening as you lift. Exhale, round all the way back. Good. One more. Inhale and open. And exhale, round back. Good. Come back to neutral. All right. And then we're going to take a side sitting position. So you can sit on your heels and then sit off to the side. So you're in like a side sit, right? If you're pregnant, you need to take the feet a little bit wider. You can totally do that. And then take your, so I'm going to give you directions. It's probably going to appear different on my screen. But if your right knee, whichever knee is out to the side, you're going to take the opposite hand over. So you're going to reach towards your top leg, right? Round through your back. And then bring your hand to your back. Breathe into the opposite side waist. So it looks like this. So you're sitting on your side, you're reaching, and you're breathing into the side waist. Right down here, see if you find any tightness in there. Drop your chin. Full deep breaths into the side waist, separating and making space from the bottom of your ribs all the way to the top of your hips. Good. Nice. See where you can soften, see where you can make more space. This area seems to get really congested a lot when we have back pain. Good. So go slowly into it. And this actually has a lot to do with core too. We need an open back to be able to do a lot of core work. Take one more breath here. Really open through your back, through your lower ribs. Awesome. Good. Slowly come out of it. Good. And then go over to the other side. So bring your other knees over to the side. So take your other hand over to your top knee. Right. Round your back. Press into your back. Good. So if you're pregnant and this feels really hard, I know it's hard to get past the belly. You can just take that arm over and then round into your back as much as you can. Right, breathing into the side waist. So you're creating space and arching through your back here. So you're creating space in the back ribs and trying to breathe way back. Good. And your knees you're sitting off to the side. I'll give you different angles. Good. 2 more breaths here. 1 more breath. Good. And then come all the way out of it. We'll come back to all fours. Take your hands a little further forward on your mat. We'll take a puppy dog. So forehead comes down to the floor. Hips are still lifted. I want you to think of pressing your glutes open, right? So your tailbone can press towards where the ceiling meets the wall. And you get a lot of space between the tip of your tailbone and your outer hips. Press your hands away from your knees. So like slide them towards the edge of your mat. And then breathe into your side waist. Full expansion in your mid-back. 2 more breaths here. Good. And then come up just a little bit, enough to walk your hands over to the left side of your mat. Drop your head down, reach through your right arm. Hips are still lifted off of your heels, stretching through the right side of your waist, creating a lot of space in your back. Pressing your hands away from your knees to find a little traction from your right hand to your right hip. Breathe into your side waist. Stay connected here. Keep pressing those glutes back towards the wall behind you. And full breaths, full releases. Good. Slowly come up, walk over to the other side. So left hand is a little further forward than your right. You're walking over to the right side of your mat. Forehead down to the floor. Full breaths. Press your left hand away from your left hip. And think of spreading and opening through your glutes. Full breath here. And you might notice that one side is a lot tighter than the other. It's harder to get your breath back. So do your best to create space, but also to let go a little bit. Right? Let go of any muscles that might be holding you in that spot. Good. One more breath here. Good. Come back through the center. Come back up onto your hands. Come to all fours. And you can roll around in your hips a little bit. Roll around in your shoulders. Just notice how different that feels now that you've kind of released everything. And we'll go back into a downward dog. So take your hands slightly forward. Tuck your toes. Lift your hips up and back. Good. Press your hips all the way back. And see if this feels a little bit different now. Can you get more space from your ribs all the way down to your hips? Good. One more big breath. Good. Bring your knees down to the floor. And then we'll come all the way over onto your back. If you feel like you don't want to be on your back and you just want to do this on your side, you can totally do that. So bring your ball or your blanket with you or your towel. Lay on your back. Take the ball, put it right between your knees. And then find neutral in your pelvis. So side lying would look like this, right? Ball between your knees. You can lay here on your side. Or you're free to totally be on your back if that feels more comfortable. You could be on your back the whole time during pregnancy. So press your knees together in the ball. See if you can feel a little pelvic floor lift and deep core start to deepen. Good. Now from here, draw your heels back. Press your arms down into the floor and then scoop your hips out, lift up into a bridge. Press your upper arms into the floor. Keep squeezing that block or ball. Drive your heels down and just lift your hips enough that you feel your glutes fire on. We don't want to crush the hips towards the ceiling. If you feel this in your low back, come down a little bit and tuck your tailbone under. So you're feeling more glute work. And then check in with your inner thighs. See if one inner thigh is working more than the other. Good. And now we're going to go with our breath here. So inhale, tap your hips all the way back down to the floor. And as you exhale, press the hips all the way back up. Squeeze your glutes, lift as you exhale. Good. Inhale, tap it back down. And exhale, lift. If you have low back pain here, round your back just slightly at the bottom and at the top of your lift. 3 more breaths here. Exhale, lift. Inhale down. Exhale, lift. Inhale down. And last one. Inhale, lift. You can hold here. Good. Now take your arms out into a cactus, elbows into the floor, fingers facing the ceiling. Press your shoulders together. Keep pressing down through your heels. Feel those glutes and hamstrings. Ooh, they're on fire, aren't they? Squeeze the glutes. Good. And then drop your hips all the way back down to the floor. Awesome. Good. Now roll to your side. Keep that ball between your knees. Right? Bring your knees to 90 degrees with your chest. Right? So from here, take your hand on your hips. I'm just going to rock that front hip forward. So the whole leg moves forward and then the whole leg moves back. So you can think of your chest stays nice and steady, but you can think of moving that femur back into the hip socket, right? So you're moving forward and back. It's a really subtle movement. You guys see what I'm doing? So we're moving forward and moving back. I'll give you a different angle. So just this hip is moving. Your chest is staying nice and stable and still. Good. Just take one more here. Good. So my method with back pain is usually close the front and open the back. Right? We want to get more strength in the front body, more openness in the back. And this really helps open up the back of the hips, which relieves some of that tightness that sometimes leads to back pain higher up the chain. Right? So go with what feels good. If this doesn't feel so good, you can make that movement smaller. Or we can go to the other side, see if that side feels better. Good. So you can rest and then we'll go over to the other side. So feel free to just roll over to the other side. I'm going to get up and flip around so my back is not facing you. And then ball back between your knees. Hand on your hips. Okay, upper body stays nice and still. And then rocking that top hip forward and back. So if you have a blanket or a pillow underneath you, you can roll it up and put the roll in that direction so you can roll forward and back on it. right? This is a really good way to loosen up all those back hip muscles. So think of that femur bone moving back into your hip and pressing into your glute muscles in the back and stretching them back. Really deepens in that hip socket. Which can be so good for pregnancy too. I mean, there's so much stuff that happens in our hips when we're pregnant and in postpartum. We gotta like readjust and get everything back in alignment. Good. Take 2 more rounds here. Good. 1 more breath. Good. Awesome. And then come back to the center. Great. Come back over onto your back. Now we're going to do some canister breaths. We went onto bridges just a second ago. So take your hands on your belly, right? Find neutral in your spine. So rock forward and back on your pelvis. So you can find the landscape of where you want to stay. And then rest right on top of the little triangle at the base of your spine. So that's where we want to be. There's a little space underneath your low back. Keep that ball between your knees. We're going to use that on your exhale. So as you inhale, let everything go. Expand in your ribs, expand in your belly, expand in the pelvic floor. Full breath in. And as you exhale, squeeze that ball or blanket. Squeeze and lift the pelvic floor in and up, and the whole belly draws back. Almost like you were putting on tight pants. Another inhale, release it out completely. Everything expands. Exhale, squeeze the ball, lift from your pelvic floor, draw the belly and baby back towards your spine. Good. 2 more breaths here. Inhale, release it out. And exhale, engage and lift. Good. And then take your hands on your glutes. Just make sure those are staying nice and soft as you're breathing. Inhale, release it out. Let that pelvic floor go. Exhale, squeeze and lift just from the pelvic floor and let the deep core and the ribs drop down too. Good. Let's do 2 more here to really get that movement down. Inhale, release it out. And exhale, squeeze and lift. Good. 1 more. Inhale, release it out. And exhale, squeeze and lift. Good. Nice. All right. Relax it out. Take that block out from between your knees. Good. Rock side to side a little bit. If you're pregnant and you start feeling dizzy or nauseous, you can come over to your side. So we're going to do some heel slides. The pregnant version of that looks like this, right? So these would be heel slides with the core engaged. If you're postpartum, you can stay on your back. Or if you're pregnant and you're okay, you can stay on your back here. So in either position, take an inhale. Exhale from your pelvic floor. Engage that deep core. Just take a moment to feel your belly. See where you feel the engagement. It should be nice and broad. And it's about 20% that we hold that connection in. Peel your right toes off the floor. As you exhale, press that right foot forward without letting go of the core. And then inhale, bring it all the way back. So your core is staying nice and still. You're working on the racing in the deep core as you're moving. And going at a really subtle pace. So it might take a little bit of time to do this. You might have to go a little slower. If you feel back pain here, you can pull that left heel back towards your hip. That will help engage those, release those low back muscles. Or if you still feel low back pain, you can roll up your mat and put it underneath your head. So elevate your head just slightly, right? Keep going with those leg extensions, working on that core connection. And again, if you're pregnant, you can do this on the side. Keep your hand on your belly, right? Drawing in and out. Good. Low level of connection in your core. Nice. Good. 2 more extensions here. Good. And then you can relax, let it go. Good. Shake your hips out. Rock your head from side to side. And we'll take 1 more breath here. Inhale, exhale from the pelvic floor. Draw the whole core back. Find that low level of tension. Peel your left toes off the floor. We'll slide that left foot forward. And then all the way back. And again, if you start feeling it in your low back, pull your right heel back towards your hip just a little bit. It'll give you just the tiniest amount of tailbone tuck that will take it out of your low back. Good. And stay connected into your core. Use your fingers to feel what's happening in your core. And if you're pregnant, right, you're on your side, you're drawing your knee in and out and keeping the core engaged. Sorry, my back is too. But otherwise, the leg extends and contracts. Good. Go at your own pace, whatever pace you feel like is appropriate, that you get enough work out of your core. You can feel the muscles turning on, but not so much that you feel like your low back is wavering and lifting off the floor. So we want nice, stable stability from your ribs all the way down to your pelvis. And sometimes that can take some time to create that stability. Got to take 2 more extensions here. Good. Excellent. Good. And then come back to the center. Now everyone roll over to your left side. Good. Find neutral. So you're not really rounded forward. You're just bringing your ribs back. We're going to take a breath here, drawing the core back. So pull the belly and the baby back towards your spine. A little light engagement here. And then lift your top knee off of your bottom knee. This might be enough, right? You can feel that core firing in. There's like a slight pelvic floor lift. And again, you're holding your belly about 20%, right? It's not like all in and squeezing everything so that you can't talk. You should be able to talk while you're doing this. All right, with your top knee, you're going to bring that knee into your chest, straighten your leg, kick it forward, and then scoop that hip all the way back, the heel all the way back towards the wall behind you, but stay connected to your core. Bring that knee in towards your chest, kick it forward, and then all the way back and around. Use your glute as you kick back. Good, so you're stabilizing through your core as you're using your leg. Full breaths here. Maintaining a low level of tension, low level of engagement in your core as you're rotating that top leg, kicking it forward, and then going all the way back. If your leg doesn't come very far forward when you kick, that's okay. It doesn't have to be hip height. Do your best, right? Good. Maintain the connection in your deep core as you're kicking. See how much engagement you can get in that outer hip. Ooh, yeah, it makes those hip muscles burn, doesn't it? Go all the way back. Yeah, see if you can originate the movement from your outer hip so those deep hip muscles are getting all the work. Last 2 here. Good. Last one. Kick it forward. Go all the way back. Good. Bring your knees back to stacked. Good. Rest, relax, hang out for a second. Make any movements that feel good. And then we'll go over to the other side. So again, feel free to roll over to the other side. I'm going to flip sides. Knees stack. You can take your hand underneath your head. All right. And then from here, take a little belly engagement. So exhale, draw the whole core back. So imagine you were trying to put on tight pants, right? This includes bringing your ribs down too. Okay, now lift that top leg off of your bottom leg. You'll feel your outer hips fire like immediately, right? Keep the core engaged. Bring that left knee towards your chest. Kick it all the way forward and then kick it all the way back behind you, keeping that leg straight. Yes, so go as slowly as you need to stay controlled and connected into your core. So if you find that with speed, you start feeling like your hips are wobbling, your upper body is wobbling, go even slower. Slow is really good. Staying connected to your core through the whole movement. Yeah. And especially with back pain, we have to be really aware of how much we compensate and use our backs, right? When we start moving our legs. So staying connected in your core, pressing your hip back. Good. These are really great to do a couple times a day just to kind of reset, your connection of when you're using your legs with your core. So if you feel like you're going for a long walk and your low back starts to hurt, this can be a really good thing to do before that. Good. Last 2. And one more here. Good. Nice. Rest your left knee on your hip, on your top knee, bottom knee. Good. Shake out your hips a little bit. Good, good. And then come on over to all fours. We're going to take the ball between your knees. So Trisha, we're actually not going to do that many squats today because squats sometimes aggravate back pain. So maybe next week when you're 40 weeks, we'll do a lot of squats, but this is good for movement too. Totally. A lot of like pelvic release. So bring your ball or your block between your knees, right? Press your hands down into the floor. We're going to take a few breaths here. So you want your back to stay nice and flat and level. When you inhale, release the pelvic floor. Let your belly and baby drop down towards the spine. As you exhale, squeeze and lift. Draw the belly and baby back and squeeze the ball between your knees. Okay, good. Inhale, release the belly and baby out. Release the pelvic floor. And as you exhale, squeeze and lift. Belly and baby back. So trying to avoid rounding your back, right? But sending your tailbone back and just using the muscles to connect into your core. Take 2 more breaths on your own pace, right? Really opening and breathing through your back and really drawing the core back without moving your low back. Good. If you need more pelvic floor connection, you can think about squeezing that ball between your knees to help you get that deeper connection. Good. Last breath here. And exhale. Good. Great. Now take your knees a little further apart. You can take that ball or blanket out from between your knees. We're going to slide that left leg back behind you like you're coming into a half plank. Right? And then press your foot back into the floor like you had peanut butter on your toes and you were trying to smear it back behind you. So press your foot into the floor, press your hands down into the floor, and imagine you are going to lift that right knee off the floor. You don't have to do it, but just stay here. Find your connection. If you feel low back pain, take a slight tailbone tuck. Right? Just drop your tailbone a little bit. See if that helps deepen that lower ab connection. 2 more breaths here. Keep pressing those left toes back like you were smearing peanut butter on the floor. Hands down into the floor, neck nice and long. Good. And then drop your left knee down to the floor. You rock side to side in your hips. Rock out in your shoulders. Good, and then other side. So right toes tuck, slide your right leg back. And then imagine you had peanut butter underneath your right toes. You were pressing back, which is going to press you forward a little bit. And then counter that by pressing your hands into the floor. You'll feel a front body engagement that is really nice and broad. And then lift from your pelvic floor. And again, if you have that tailbone or low back tightness, drop your tailbone a little bit. See if that helps you engage that lower core. Good. Exhale. Belly and baby back towards the spine. Nice. Pressing back, smearing that peanut butter towards the wall behind you, pressing your hands into the floor. 1 more breath here. Good. Bring your right knee down to the floor. Sit back on your heels. Take your fingertips towards your toes and then scoop your hips. Lift them up, press your shins into the floor, open your chest. Find some expansion in your front body. And again, let your tailbone drop towards your knees. Opening through the fronts of your hips, fronts of your quads. 1 more breath here. Good. Bring your knees back down to the floor. Great. And then come to stand on your knees. Bring your right foot forward again. So this is how we started, right? With that right foot forward. And then check out your hips. Again, right? Notice if you tend to sit high and that hip tends to hike, take your hand on your right glute and drop it down. Yeah. And then pull your knees together. So feet isometrically pulled together. You'll feel that right hip and the left hip flexor start to work. Good. Now from here, take your fingers forward, your hands forward to the palms facing up. Touch your pinkies. We're going to work a little bit on upper back engagement with some core engagement. Keep those legs engaged. Good. Bring the pinkies together. Take a full inhale. Exhale, belly and baby back. So 20% lift here in the core. Good. Take another inhale. And as you exhale, take those thumbs out towards the wall behind you in a T. So draw your shoulder blades together. Maintain that connection in your deep core. Inhale, bring your pinkies to touch. And exhale, open. Good. Keep squeezing those legs together. Inhale. Exhale, open. Later, you can do this with a resistance band too. It'll give you more work in your upper back. Keep moving on your breath. Inhale, close it forward, and exhale as you open. Thumbs move back. You start to feel the counteraction between the legs squeezing, the deep core engaging as you open your shoulders, so that you're using more of your shoulder muscles to open and not so much of your lower back. Your spine is staying nice and protected, and your deep hips are really working. Good. Last two here. Squeeze those shoulder blades together. You can also do this holding weights, palms facing up, right? Light weights. Good. And then release it. Switch legs. Ah, good, good. That little engagement of pulling your legs together can do a lot to equal out any imbalances that you have in your hips that might be causing some of that back pain, right? If you're like sinking into one hip more than the other. So go ahead and check on this side. Again, if you tend to sit high in that hip, take your hand on your glute and drop it down. Really sit into it, square your hips off, and then pull your legs towards each other. Right? Squeeze in. So you'll feel that left hamstring, left glute, front of the right hip flexor. Pull those legs together. You're working about 20% here, right? It's not like 100% effort. Take a big deep breath. Exhale from the pelvic floor. Draw your core back. Create more space in your back. Right? Maintain that engagement of your legs. Bring the arms forward. Pinkies touch. Good. Take an inhale into your back. Exhale, thumbs open as you draw your belly and baby back towards your spine. Good. Inhale, tap your pinkies. And exhale, open. Good. Keep going on your breath. And we're working with some what's called tensegrity. So there's tension in other parts of our bodies, i.e. our legs and our hips and our core, as another part of the body is working. And it helps to get more engagement in that body part that we're moving because the energy lines are connected, right? And you're getting full range of motion through your shoulders, through your upper back. Good. Exhale as you open. Stay as connected as you can to that idea of pulling those legs together. Belly drawing back. Good. 2 more breaths here. Exhale, open. Nice. If you decide to do this later with a band, make sure your hands are facing up, right? So you're pulling with your mid back, not with your neck. Good. Relax your arms down, roll your shoulders out, come back onto your knees. Good. Both hands down to the floor, come back to all fours. Tuck your toes, and we'll sit back into that glute stretch again. So it's not child's pose. We're just sitting your hips all the way back. Feel free to take your knees wider if you need to make space for the baby, but then really spread through your glutes, right? Try to get your tailbone to expand. And then maybe draw your core in a little bit if you feel some tightness in your back. Good. 1 more breath here. Good. Now go into child's pose from whatever position you're in. So you can untuck your toes, go all the way down. If you're pregnant, knees are wide. If you're postpartum, knees are together. Right? And then take your arms all the way back by your hips. Stay here. Good. Breathe into the entirety of your back. So underneath your neck, underneath your shoulders, along your kidneys, all the way down to your tailbone, all the way down into your glutes. Let's see if you can get that full release. And if you feel like there is a place that is really tight that just will not let go, you can come up out of it a little bit, but then stay with it if you can. If it's causing you pain, come out of it. But if it feels like muscle tightness or muscle tension, stay with it and see if you can let the muscles start to soften and let go. A lot of back pain are those paraspinals on either side of your spine really overworking, and they get really fatigued and tired and achy. So this position can help put them at a place of ease and encourage them to relax. Sometimes you have to be here for a while. So we're not going to be here for a while, but this is a good thing to come back to, right? Drop your tailbone down, release through the pelvic floor. I'm going to take 1 more breath where you are. Good. And then take your hands to the floor. Come all the way up to sit. Wherever you are, we're going to take the right hand up overhead. Left arm out to the side, take a side bend. We'll go with our breath here. Inhale, open back out, and exhale, close it over. Inhale, open, and exhale, close. Okay. Inhale, open, and exhale, close. Inhale, open, and exhale, close. Great, good. Other side, right hand down, left arm up overhead. And inhale, open, and exhale, close. Long spine, long reach. Inhale, open, exhale, close. Inhale, open, exhale, close. Good. One more. Inhale, open, and exhale, close. Good. Inhale, come back through the center. Close your eyes, roll your shoulders out, roll your wrists. Good. And then roll them the other way. Feels funny. Good. And then relax, release it. Draw your shoulders towards your ears. Really scrunch your shoulders up. And then exhale, let them go. Do that one more time. Inhale, scrunch your shoulders up. And exhale, let it go. Good. And then when you're ready, let your eyes open. If you want to stay here for a little bit longer, you can. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.